Mary Ann Marshall?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And then that night, as a substitute, as I read this, and then that day, or that morning rather, the two remaining members of the canvassing board put her on the board that day as a substitute.
The county commissioners replaces any commissioner.
Okay.
We did not place her.
All right, but when she
The canvassing
came,
board did not place her.
when she came that morning, as I read what we were furnished, the commission acknowledged that she was serving as a substitute commissioner.
The canvassing board acknowledged the fact that she was substituting for Mr. Howard.
And you were aware, and everybody was aware, that she had been on the ballot in this very election, which we are now contesting. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you're familiar with the law because was this person that worked for you, she just didn't do it because, was she on the canvassing commission?
No, she was on the ballot.
I know, but was she on the canvassing commission or just an employee in your office?
She is an employee in my office, and she is my right arm, and she stepped down because her name was on the ballot.
Well, she did the right thing, but it
Yes,
wasn't
sir.
necessarily that she had to. She did it because it was right. And we're proud of her for that, and you for having somebody that works for you like that. But then you put somebody, you didn't, the commission put somebody on the commission to serve in this case that had been on the ballot, and just like your assistant, correct?
But her election was over.
I think we're getting into the final legal argument that
No, I'm not.
Otis and I talked about we would make.
I got us to
Let's try to move this as quickly as we can now.
Ms. King's not an expert on the law. I think that would be reserved for final argument on the legal side. Otherwise, I have to bring in all the witnesses.
I'm waiting for a question.
I've been trying my best here.
I'm listening for a question.
Okay. Now, to summarize slightly, there was one certification on November the 9th. There were no other certifications until the 24th, or was it the 26th?
Yeah, let me object. I hate to stand and object again. I think this has been asked and answered. She said it's the 24th.
We stipulated to it, but then they went into all this other stuff. I think we have to go into
We
it.
stipulated, both the defendant and the plaintiff stipulated.
That's what we did.
Her testimony is in line with what's in the stipulation.
All right. The other thing I was going to ask you was, aren't there two sides to that ballot they put up there? The one with the red
Depends
line
on how you
on it?
look at it. There's a front and a back,
Yes, ma'am.
and there's two sides.
There was front and the back, and there were some races on the back too, weren't there?
That's correct. In order to vote that complete ballot, you had to, if you wanted to vote on each race, you would vote front and back of an A, B, and C card. The presidential race is only on the A card, and that is also the card that tells you how many voters participated in the November 7th election.
So there is one question I didn't ask you. I think I've tried everything to get this in. Isn't it correct that at the time you sent that first certification in, you yourself thought there was something wrong with it?
At the time I sent the first certification in was the election night results.
Okay, the next day.
And there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. The automatic recount, we missed 218 ballot cards because we tried to pull out all the red ones. All the red ones were not up top. They were turned down in the bottom of the box. It was not until after they had already been sealed up, signed and sealed and stored under security the morning of the 9th. By 9 o'clock, we realized there had been a mistake.
And you sent...
The mistake was that I did not proof everything that left my office.
Okay, my question still is, at the time you sent the certification on the 9th, which certified what you now say was the incorrect count, you already knew that, you yourself.
I knew it, but not before it was certified and faxed and mailed to the Division of Elections. I'm
not going to go into the question of your political affiliation in public statements or anything like that. Thank you.
Your Honor, may I ask a couple questions in light of what he has done? I'll try to keep it short. Ms. King, my name is Joe Flock. I'm counsel for Catherine Harris and for Clay and also for the Canvassing Commission. If I could just ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
With respect to the November 24 meeting, I believe you testified that neither anyone from Secretary Harris's office or the Elections Division told you what to do, other than advising you that if you were going to do anything, you had to have a canvassing board meeting. Is that correct?
Pretty much so.
Okay, fine. So when they say in paragraph 10 of the stipulation that the November 24 meeting, after receiving advice from the Elections Division of the Department of State, the advice they're referring to there is just that you had to have a meeting if you were going to do anything. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, ma'am. One or two more questions. When you sent in the certificate on November 7th, you just had the returns and you signed it. Is that correct? And you sent it in?
We type those figures up on the forms that are sent to us from the Division of Elections, and the 3 members sign that, and it is faxed, and then it is mailed immediately to the Division of Elections.
Okay, you don't write any personal notes on it or anything, you just fill in the blanks and sign it, correct?
That's correct, on the
Great.
certification.
Now, on the next day, after the automatic machine recount was done, did you do the same thing, ma'am?
That's correct.
Did you put any personal notes on that, or just fill in the form?
Just filled in the form for the recount.
Okay. And after you had the meeting on November 24, when you sent that particular form in, did you have any notes on that, or did it just have amended on it?
I'm not real sure, because I sent quite a few.
But you did
Sheets
not
of
have
paper.
any explanation in there as to why there was a difference between that one and the one you had filed on November 9th. You
I
just filled it
believe
in.
we did. I believe we had an explanation on that. And also we sent in the precinct by precinct results showing.
Okay. And then finally, ma'am, when you sent in the numbers on November 26th, is it? The day that you were ordered to by the Supreme Court of Florida, when you on the Sunday, when you sent the final numbers in, they include the overseas ballots.
Correct.
You just filled out the form there, and that contained the total number of votes for Nassau County. It just wasn't a supplementary one, it was the total votes, correct?
We had 2 different certifications that went in. One had the overseas ballots and one had the actual election count.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Oh, just one
Your
last
Honor,
question. I'm
excuse me,
sorry.
I didn't realize that he was going to ask direct or cross or whatever it is. At the time he did, I have one.
He took Mr. Bartlett's direct,
But I have
And
one
just
question. That
one
is
last
written
question.
on his
All
cross.
right. You got another question?
Yes, sir, if
All
he's
right.
through.
Yes, sir, I think so.
Yes, apparently.
Ms. King, I hate to belabor this point, but did you make a statement to the press that was reported in the Washington Post on the 26th November? Quote, she, King, said they were told by Ed Cast, who works in Harris's office, that the local board could certify its original tally and disregard the recount. Is that what you told them?
Something to that effect is what I was told. I was trying to get help from the Division of Elections, and they told me that it was in the hands of the canvassing board.
But Ed Cast, who works in Harris's office, that the local board,
I believe that
No,
we
no.
heard that one the first time.
I want to know, I think they're
She answered
consistent.
that she told him something to that effect, so
I think
may we
that's
move
right.
on?
That's all I have.
All right. If by your leave, you didn't, I had one question, if you don't mind. Let me ask you if your instructions were, Ms. King, that you could have a meeting of the canvassing board. First, who ordered that the ballots be sealed up and that the tape be put on and the judge sign and nobody could open that box?
That's just one of our laws, that as soon as the election is
Oh, okay.
completed, you seal them.
All right, and then,
And they're not supposed to be open, to my understanding, unless you have a court order or the canvassing board has some reason to go back and open them.
well, that's the reason I wonder, when you had the meeting on November the 24th, did the canvassing board discuss reopening the
At that
box?
time, we were running out of time, and we felt the best way to get the correct certification to the Division of Elections was to go back to the election night results.
Okay.
But I did offer, and I'm still offering, I will go back and count them automatically by hand, whatever's necessary to prove to you that the tally that we gave you on November the 7th is correct.
All right. And do either of you have any questions concerning any matter I may have inquired about?
No, sir. Your Honor, could I
Yes,
ask
sir.
one, Ms. King, to follow up on what Judge Saul said? Do you remember the day of the meeting on the 24th,
Yes.
indicating to the canvassing board that based upon your conversations with the Secretary of State's office and given the time constraint, the thing to do would be to recertify the November 7th return?
That was my understanding.
And is that what you advised the canvassing board?
Yes,
that
it
day?
was.
And then you subsequently sent in a new certification to the Secretary of State's office indicating that this was an amended certification. Is that not correct?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Anything further? May the witness stand down and be excused without objection. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Call the next witness.
Your Honor, that was our last live witness. If Your Honor would like, I could, at this time, formally offer the various documents that we've referred to in the course of our presentation. And we've been doing the best we can on this, and we'll furnish...
We've been listening to Bush campaign witness Shirley King, about to retire after 20 years on the job as supervisor of elections in Nassau County, Florida. Her final year clearly is not one she will soon forget. A constant of this post-election period has been the cascading number of legal actions filed. Well, there is a new one tonight, a motion filed by the Gore campaign in Leon County, Florida. Jonathan Carl can tell us about that, and also about the Vice President's latest appearance before the TV cameras, an interview for 60 Minutes on CBS. Jonathan?
Well, that's right, Gene. Let's start with the 60 Minutes interview. It was a taped interview done at the Vice President's residence. It was just completed. I've got a quote from that interview, and I'll read that now. The Vice President said in his interview with Leslie Stahl, quote, "If at the end of the day, when all the processes have taken place, if George W. Bush is sworn in as president, he will be my president, he will be America's president." Those are the words of the Vice President in his taped interview on 60 Minutes. But of course, as we see, the processes have not all been done, and the Vice President certainly not ready to call George W. Bush his president or America's president. The most recent action by the Gore campaign is a motion filed there in Leon County in response to a complaint that was filed yesterday by the Bush campaign. Yesterday, if you remember, Gene, the Bush campaign filed a complaint against 3 Florida counties, against Volusia County, against Broward County, and against Seminole County. What the Bush campaign did in that complaint yesterday is they basically contested the election results, the certification of the vote in Broward and Volusia County, saying that the hand counts that were done in those 2 counties were improper, and they should hence be thrown out. So this is a third-party complaint, as in the legalese is what it is called. That was the argument of the Bush campaign yesterday. As far as Seminole County, of course, is what has been called the sleeper lawsuit in all of this. The Seminole County case involves those absentee ballots where there's a lawsuit to get those thrown out because the applications for the absentee ballots were improperly done by Republican officials, as alleged in the lawsuit. The Bush campaign is asking Judge Sauls here to rule on that case, saying essentially that the absentee ballots are proper and that they should be counted. Now, the Gore campaign, in this most recent filing just done a couple of hours ago, is saying that this complaint by the Bush campaign